Hey, hold on. All right.
I like the sound effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, hold on. What is this one? Okay. Yeah. We're at the podcast. We got Juan as our guest. And today, we're going to be talking about video production and how creative makes it out in this world. This camera's a little bit off. I got to turn it just a little bit. Oh yeah. I like that we put on the headphones.
Yeah.
Let me turn this. This one's
Okay.
a little off, but oh, that looks a lot better. Okay. All right. So I'm going to introduce you to the camera here, and then we'll just start the conversation. So, hello, welcome to the Hens Bread Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Perkins, and I'm sitting here with a filmmaker that I highly respect. He's out here in Austin, Texas, and he is he's learned his craft from a different country, and he practices here, and he is so consistent with the work that he outputs that I'm happy to have him here as a guest so we can hear about his creative process, the clients that he's looking to work with, and how does he stay in this creative field like when everything's changing so much. So for our host, or for our guest today, we have Juan Mardones.
Yeah.
Juan Mardones, and this is our first time meeting together. This is kind of pretty amazing. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, to all the people that is seeing the podcast, hi everyone, this is Juan Mardones. I'm a Chilean Texan filmmaker based in Austin, Texas. And well, today we're going to talk about all my professional career, my background, different topics about filmmaking,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess let's start it off with, Juan, what is the kind of work that you like to make?
Yeah. Well, since I graduated from the film school, I have been working a lot, and I started doing brand activations, first just as a video editor. Then I quit that job, and for just a few time, I worked as a location sound recordist, sound mixer, boom operator, in different types of video projects until I got my second job with my parents' company, which is called Procesos Ambientales, where I also started to do more camera operating work. So from
So you're a sound guy that turned into a video guy.
Yeah, so I have been moving around that field, mostly camera operating, sound recording, and video editing.
And that's I didn't know that. So whenever I work with somebody, sound is always the last thing people think of. And it's the most important part of a project. So can you tell me, how was that transition for anybody that's out there that wants to be into video? How was that transition from sound into camera operator? How did that go?
Well, it was very challenging in the beginning. Everything started during the film school when I was coursing my first year of career. I remember I worked in a couple of projects where I felt like camera operating is not for me. I didn't chase the dream of becoming a director of photography like other classmates did. So I started to look for another roles on the film set, and one of them was a location sound recordist, because something that I liked about that role was the fact that it is more independent in a certain way. You do not have to follow superior orders. So uh, also considering that not so many people used to take care about sound, so I can do my job with more liberty, maybe. And besides, uh, it is also more the type of technical work where you just have to worry about doing the job well. For example, a key rule about sound recording is the dialogues always must sound very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, or sometimes, yeah, because it is also important to clarify the difference between a sound mixer boom operator and a sound designer. During the film school, you used to work with your classmates in a more reduced groups. So I used to do a sound recording on set, but also a sound design in post production. But when you are working in a more specialized environment like the film industry, there are people that are very specialized in sound recording on set, but also there are people that actually used to work more in post production, doing sound design. And I remember when I was in the film school, I realized that I like more the sound recording part, but in narrative projects, I didn't enjoy so much doing the all the sound design. You know, creating all the ambience,
Mm-hmm.
the sound effects,
The Foley.
yeah, the foley,
I actually,
yeah,
I wish I had time to do more of that because I
yeah,
love how subtle it is. Like there's a account on Instagram where the guy will put microphones in water and
yeah.
it'll show you like everything has its own sound and texture. And so you did do Foley or you didn't like doing it?
I didn't make so much foley. Actually, I learned to do foley as the last resource.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when you are doing the sound design in any project, you can get sound effects from libraries on
Mm-hmm.
the internet, but sometimes you need to create very specific sounds, or you need to give some object or person a unique identity. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to mix different sounds or using different plugins in order to create that character or environment. Yeah, because that is the other thing about sound. With sound, you can create a whole world. You can give a character
Yeah,
a
you can add to
unique,
the character just based off sound.
yeah,
So one thing that I heard years ago, and I still think about it,
yeah,
is like if you have a menacing character,
yeah,
if you have that character walking with like heavy footsteps,
yeah,
or like that can add to like who before you even see what they look like, you can
yeah,
see what kind of person they are, and just based off how they're standing when they're walking, or just like the clothing that's being ruffled. And so I've always like loved that about sound is like, yeah, you can build on you can say this character is a bad
yeah,
person without specifically saying this is the bad guy, you know?
yeah,
So I love that part of video, but it's it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
You know, like to put the effects in and make it where it's subtle, and yeah, that's one thing that it's one person's job to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I started to learn when I already was a graduated professional. I learned to work as a one-man band filmmaker. However, during the process, I also started to realize that there are certain kind of tasks that cannot be done by my own. For example, yes, I can set the cameras and the lights, but for sound, I seriously need one more person because it is too much. For example, if you already are stressed setting the cameras, the lights, taking care of the exposure, the aperture, but if you also ask me about taking care of the sound, how many microphones, that is very stressful, and
it's very stressful. And to add to that, because I think what people think of when they see video is like, oh, the iPhone will have an auto, you know, like it does things automatically. But with video, when you do it professionally, a lot of time that's your one take. So if you're filming somebody that's on stage, the stress of it, like, okay, well, if there's a mistake, we're not going to have this guy go back on stage to do his thing. So that's something, the underlying factor of like why you hire a professional. And if you bog that one professional with all these tasks, it, you know, people think it's as simple as pressing record, but you know, I'm always thinking of 5 different things when something's because the way I put it is like, once the train is on the tracks, like, I mean, that's all you can do. You know, the train is moving.
Yeah. In fact, that is something that I have been learning about. For example, when I receive job requests, I finally learned to be more honest about saying, for sound, if you want me to record sound, I need to bring another guy, and that means it will increase the price because I have to consider their salary in the budget, and also, as I said, it is too much stress to be worried about the microphones, the audio recorder. I also made the experiment once when I was starting as a graduate professional, trying to set my camera with 2 lavaliers on the top and on the bottom the audio recorder, and I realized, no, this is too much stress. And that is the other thing I wanted to talk about right now, because sometimes it is very important to clarify the difference between film and video.
Here, we'll get that up. Clarify the difference between film and video.
Yeah. Because.
Hold on. Let me get this up.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Oh, we got a makeshift podcast here, folks. So the clarification between film and video.
Yeah, because filmmaking is a more specialized work. I mean, there are a lot of people, everyone doing a different kind of job. The people in charge of the camera department, the sound department, makeup, hairstyle, which other department? Location.
Yeah.
But in video, things can be more simple. Also, because it is a type of job that requires sometimes very tight deadlines, especially when you're working in advertising and TV.
Yeah.
So it is understandable that things tend to be more simple because you have to be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So certain context, you cannot bring a whole crew to record a
Mm-hmm.
scene, or sometimes there are certain types of stories or projects that perfectly may be solved with a smaller crew. So at the end of the day, I think both fields, film and video, sometimes tend to take elements of each other. For
Yeah,
example,
definitely.
yeah, for example, there is that concept, guerrilla films,
Yes.
where you used to make movies with a smaller crew,
Mm-hmm.
or when you are recording a scene on a bus or the train. So sometimes it is a very bureaucratic process to ask for permission
Yeah.
to record in these environments. So sometimes you have to solve the scene maybe using a cell phone with a good quality, or a more simple camera and natural light, because unless you already are a, a director with a very well-known director with a reputation, and you are coming with a bigger company, maybe in that context you may ask to may, you can close a street to shoot a scene, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to be more creative, and that is
You know what that
yeah,
makes me think of
yeah,
is how Star Wars they didn't
yeah,
they didn't film it in space. They had like
yeah,
little miniatures,
yeah,
and it's so brilliant to go back to the basics of like, all right, what can you do with to move the story along?
yeah. In fact, thanks for mentioning Star Wars. Star Wars was the movie that I saw when I was 9 years old, and I liked it too much. And because of that movie, I started to become more interested about filmmaking and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, I took the decision about studying the film and TV career.
Star Wars is what kicked it off for you.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I think there's so many other people that have that same story, like Indiana Jones. You know,
yeah,
something that kind of like takes you away from what you're normally facing. So,
yeah,
when you were seeing this, were you in Chile?
yeah,
So this is like, you know, how does Star Wars start off? It's like off in another galaxy, far, far away.
yeah,
And so you would see this, and your eyes would be like, "Oh my gosh! Like I wish I could be doing something like this." Or
yeah,
what are they actually doing? So,
yeah.
um, because I think what is filmmaking is so synonymous with Hollywood,
Mm,
and Hollywood being in Los Angeles, United
mm,
States, but you're in a different country, and you're seeing this, and you're
yeah.
just like, "How do I get closer to that?"
Mm. Yeah, I think it is not weird that not just me, other filmmakers also found out their interest about filmmaking and storytelling because of Star Wars. In fact, in the past year, I remember I was following the Oscars, and Coralie Fargat, the director of The Substance, one of her first short films was about Star Wars. Yeah, it looks very with very low quality, very low budget, but it is funny because that proves my point about I'm not the only one who became interested about filmmaking because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there maybe there is something about that saga, the way it was filmed,
Mm-hmm.
that uh, that provoked something on us, and we started to.
It's like creating its own world.
Yeah.
Just like Game of Thrones. People love Game of Thrones because it's this medieval fantasy, but it's like its own it's its own thing. That's why I personally love the game Fallout. I don't know if you've ever played that, but it's not so much it's like the fun gameplay. It's just its own interesting 1950s mixed with like future aesthetic that is just so unique, and that brings me into that world. You know, like anything that kind of looks like that or feels like that. I really enjoy that. So, what about Star Wars was like the thing that fascinated you the most?
I became a Star Wars fan in around 1997 when the special edition was released.
They're getting ready for the episode 1.
Yeah, so
episode 1 was like 1999.
Yeah, 1999. And before the special edition, I remember we had our first PC at home with a lot of softwares, and there was a specific one, Microsoft Cinemania 95. I remember that was the name, and it had a lot of video excerpts from different movies: Ben-Hur, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Jaws, and especially Star Wars. And that one started to call my attention. I'm talking about the excerpt was about that scene where Obi-Wan Kenobi was fighting Darth Vader at the Death Star. And then the stormtroopers see them both fighting to each other. So the main characters already can reach the Millennium Falcon, and Obi-Wan Kenobi sacrificed himself so they can escape from the Death Star. And I really was fascinated about that
a good guy can die too.
No, I'm talking about the how Darth Vader, the stormtroopers, C-3PO, R2-D2 look at like. And then I remember when the special edition was launched in theaters, I decided to go to see these movies in theater, and I really loved them.
Yeah. I that's actually one of my favorite memories growing up is seeing Star Wars with my dad and my uncle in theaters. And I think that's why I love watching movies so much, is because it was a way for me to get closer to my dad, because I didn't see him. I didn't live with him. So media like that has always meant a lot to me. So earlier you were talking about like difference between videography and filmmaking.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the work that you like to make, like specifically what you're passionate about?
Yeah. Currently, I'm in a process where I am rethinking my strategy about how I'm advertising my services and what type of projects I want to work in. I'm not saying that I'm in recess or something, but I'm in that part of the process where I'm rethinking what type of projects I want to start doing in 2026. And for example, one of the decisions I have been taking lately is to start to get away from event videography. Yeah, because
there's not a lot of money in it.
I don't want to say there is not a lot of money. Yeah, I have good experiences working in it, but I started to feel like it has been devaluing, maybe because nowadays it is more accessible to get a camera and an editing software.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes and maybe that has created uh, a fake idea about it is a cheap service or something
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Or at some point I started to accept that there are some things that are not going to change just because I complain about it or I start to fight with the clients. This is how things are working. So I also, yeah, and so I have been thinking a lot about to start to get away from event videography. Yeah, and also one of the issues I started to notice since 2024, and this job request about we want a photographer, videographer.
Yeah.
Yes, of
I see
course,
that
there
too.
are
And
there is a whole thing about
and
it.
actually, whenever
Yeah.
I get that request of like, do
Mm,
you do photo and video? Like that
mm,
is one of
yeah.
the few things that I'm like, look, this needs to be two people. There's
Mm,
no like because like
yeah.
just like how we talked in the beginning, like video, you're like thinking about five different things, and even though they're in
Mm,
the similar
yeah.
field of
Yeah.
video and photo, like you don't want the client to come back to you and be like, "Oh, you missed this moment." It's like,
Mm,
well, I'm already trying to do
mm,
three different things. So yeah,
yeah.
like whenever I get that request, you do video and photo. I'm like, well, those are two different people. But my business, we will do that. It's just I won't. I have a hard time
Yeah.
saying, look, I'll do video and photo. I'll if and they're adamant, I'll be like, I can give you stills from the video,
Yeah.
which is
Mm,
not as good, but it's like well something. And then like I could put a camera around me, but it's like with the expectation, it's like, look, I mean, if there's a moment
yeah.
missed, I mean, I can only do so much.
Yeah, because that is the other thing. Photography and videography are two different jobs. You in both fields, you use different camera setups and lighting setups as well. Yeah, for example, it is not the same setting the shutter speed for video than setting the shutter speed for photography.
Yeah, no, that's a great
Yeah,
point.
that is. Yeah, for example, one of the rules about video, for example, if you are shooting in 24 FPS, you have to set the shutter speed to 48 or 50, depending on the type of camera you're using, the double number. And in photography, it is different. You use a different shutter speed because
Shutter speed could be
of
the
the
characteristic
movements.
of
Yeah,
the actual end
yeah,
frame.
yeah, and also, uh, yeah, of course, there are these type of hybrid cameras. These cameras exist from a long time, but for example, I remember when Sony FX2 was launched in the past year. My a
I
lot of
like the FX2, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, but some people used to complain because of certain technical limitations in comparison with the Sony FX3 or FX30.
Hmm.
But actually, my complaint about that camera was it feels like the triumph of the clients that used to ask for a photographer, videographer,
Yeah,
because that is the reason why this camera exists right now.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so I think if you're
yeah,
yes, that opens up a door of like the
yeah,
clients saying, "Hey, we want to do video and photo,"
yeah,
but I think video equipment is so expensive. So
mhm,
when they can make a hybrid
yeah,
item like that, the FX2, it it's a great first camera.
Yeah.
And if you want to move on to more specialized stuff, then you have that ability. But when I started Hensbread, I remember I would do any type of job because you have to stay busy and you have to know what you like and what you don't like. So if I had access to the FX2 back in 2020, I mean, that would have been a great tool. I had the A7 III and I love that camera to this day. I think it's still phenomenal photos. So, but the reason why I moved away from that camera is it had a 30-minute record limit. Do you know that?
Yeah.
And that one feature was the reason why I didn't like stay with it to this day. Cause it's like a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll do like filming, like how we're doing here. We have all this filming going on for talking head stuff, and to have to think in your mind, like, okay, well, I pressed record 30 minutes ago that was a thing that would always weigh on me. So, and you could put a recorder on it, but that's another thing that you now need to set up. So anyway, so the client pushing, hey, photo and video, that I think we both agree that's a lot. Is there something that you like to work on? Like what kind of projects? Because you're in the middle of trying to figure out what you want to move to.
Yeah. Lately, I have been reencanting myself with corporate videos. That is something that I used to do in my second job between 2018 and 2020 with my parents' company. They own an engineering company in Chile. And obviously, when they started, they asked for me to be part of the company with helping with video creation. And so I also, this is how I got into corporate videos. And lately, as I said, during the last few days, that is something I started to reencant myself with. Because I started to work in a couple videos that I actually created with using images taken from a library. And I decided to put them together to create something more cinematic, maybe. I decided to treat myself with certain creative decisions, and I feel like I found how can I, as I said, there is something about corporate videos that I like. It is not like doing brand activations where you have to make very
quick cuts. Yeah, and which requires a lot of footage. Like you have. So this is one thing about brand activations is they'll say, look, we're going to be here and we have 3 hours and we need a recap video. So that's fine. We can do that. But it's also like, well, you have to, you have to have a lot of footage to make something unique, unless you, or you can make something, but your audience won't have a chance to absorb it. Like if you just do a bunch of fast cuts, I mean, it really doesn't connect with the audience. It creates some sort of energy. But those videos are always so odd. And whenever I do like a recap, I'm always thinking like, well, we should incorporate some sort of narrative. Like talking to the camera, because like you have to let your audience know like what are we trying to do in this video.
You remind me my first job as a video editor. Of course I agree. This is how brand activations work. Very quick cuts in the edit. This is how brand activations work. But I remember my job, my boss was sometimes I used to edit the video. the videos exactly as he requested. Very quick cuts, and he used to say, "No, uh, I need it faster."
Yeah.
And I thought, "What? I already it is already fast enough. I don't know how to make it." And sometimes, yeah, but as I said, uh, the quick cuts is one thing, but working with a boss with an aggressive work philosophy, that is another thing. And one day I was talking with my mom in 2024. Yeah, sometimes we used to have video calls. And one day we were talking. I don't know what we were talking about, but we suddenly started to talk about my first job, and she said, uh, maybe she just knew my boss only once, but I remember she saw me in 2017 when I quit my job. I was too stressed. And I remember in that conversation we had in 2024, I remember she said, actually, he really had a very aggressive work philosophy and was not a good experience at all. And that is the other thing. Yeah, because as I said, I had to learn to be fast as an editor.
And you know what
But
sucks about that is if you
yeah,
are if you have a boss or somebody that's saying
yeah,
you need to have fast cuts, it's hard to shake out of that.
mm,
Because you think, okay, everybody wants a fast cut,
yeah,
and but you don't learn your style of
yeah,
editing.
yeah, because yeah, that was the other thing. Yeah, for example, I in my first job, there were some partners that used to say, "Your boss has uh, talked to me about you, and he said he likes working with you because you adapted very well. But the thing is, I adapted very well to that job because I was a beginner, so." It was at a point of my career where I didn't have a, a creative style
Hmm.
that ident- uh, that identify myself or something. So yeah, because when you already have a lot of experience, at some point you already have your own creative style, and you feel like no one can tell me how to do my job. Yeah, in fact, just 1 week ago, I had an issue with a project that I didn't finish to edit because I started to question myself. What is the line? For example,
Yeah, I saw you post that the other day.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you basically got into some frustration between you and the client
yeah,
with post production.
yeah, because I was editing an artistic and experimental project. I thought I could handle it, and I started. Yeah, they gave me the instructions. I tried to follow them. Yeah, that may seem good, but at some point I started to feel like, yeah, I'm following the instructions, but I'm editing exactly as they wanted. But for me, it is not working
It didn't fulfill
because,
you.
yeah, it didn't feel like, yeah, because maybe the music they
Yeah.
asked for me to add to the video, or the narrative structure for me it is not working. I could do the whole job in a different way. Yeah, I understand when you are dealing with clients, you have to sometimes you have to follow a script or very specific instructions about the length, the mood, what types of moments you have to put in the video. But on the other hand, you have your criterion, your vision as a filmmaker, and sometimes from an external person can see the project, and they also can suggest a new narrative strategy to make the project work. So that is why I was saying, at the end of the day, what is the line? And the other day also was talking about it
So
with a
what was the
friend.
line? Did you ever resolve it with the client?
No, finally I decided to quit the project because yeah, maybe years ago I would have ended the edit, maybe because of the lack of experience, because I was at a point of my career where I was trying to prove how good I am. But right now I'm at a moment of my life where I prefer to take more care about my mental health instead of stressing about a project that I don't know if it is going to result or not, or something that is becoming too problematic for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's a tight
yeah,
balance, right? Because
yeah,
um, you have to be able to
yeah.
survive. So you have
Mm,
to make enough money to be able to pay for your groceries and
mm,
your the wear and tear on your equipment. But then at the same time, you also have to
yeah,
make sure that you have to be in the right headspace to
yeah,
work on projects. And well, the way I look at editing is it's like
yeah,
solving a puzzle. So
yeah,
if so there's some moments where I feel very inspired
yeah,
to work on an edit because it's like there's that side of my brain is working really well. But then there's some moments where I'm like, well, I would be forcing
mm,
an edit, and I just have to let the creativity come to me.
mm,
It's almost like magic.
yeah,
Um, so to prioritize your mental health
mm.
and instead of like agreeing to every project, how do you feel like that has affected you, like your your mental health? Do you feel like you've noticed like positive changes working on the project specifically you've wanted to work on, rather than doing everything you can? Like,
Yeah,
more
mm,
specifically,
yeah.
um, do you feel like the work that you've been doing has been overall better because you feel better about what you're doing?
Um, yeah, um, I feel more secure than the previous years. Yeah, because until a few years ago, I still used to feel sometimes a little bit insecure about certain.
That's why I don't ask for
Yeah.
feedback, because like I don't need that,
Mm,
that negativeness. Like
mm,
I feel like I know what I like, and
mm,
I'm trying to grow what I believe in.
yeah.
Like I don't need other people to tell me that it's not right.
Yeah. For example, in my first job, it was part of my job to receive feedback because of the work philosophy we had. But when I started to work as a solo videographer, at that point I already had a better understanding about the whole process, about how corporate videos work or how to edit an event. Yeah, because I already had that previous experience. For example, when my boss used to tell me, "No, take off that image because it doesn't."
Does it go
Uh,
with the brand?
yeah, it doesn't go with
Yeah,
the brand or
and
the
that's fine.
story. Yeah, it is. It is part of the job
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But for example, I do not used to ask to other people how is my editing looking like. Yeah, because as I said, I for example, I know, for example, in photography, it is very common that the photographer used to show the client their pictures, which one you want to uh, you want for the package
Yeah, I
for
don't do
the.
that.
But the other day I was thinking it is supposed that you already have edited a lot of projects. You already know which ones are the best ones
Right.
to be selected and edited and delivered to the client. Yeah, I understand when you are a beginner or but yeah, that may sound a little bit authoritarian maybe, but at the end of the day, when you already have faced a lot of projects, you already know how
Mhm.
to compose the images well, or to have a better look about the different mistakes, attention to detail.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is another keyword from LinkedIn. Yeah, attention to detail. Yeah, so for example, sometimes there are certain images that may look very nice, but you notice certain details that so you already can say, I would not select that one because of that detail that do not favor the subject or
Right.
the.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah,
done that too. Like,
yeah.
well, I'll take an image. I'm like, this looks really good, but the
Mm,
client might not look
mm,
very good, and for that reason, it's
yeah.
like, well, then it just sits on a hard drive,
Mm,
because, uh, yeah. I will. I'm gonna touch up on that. Like, so the confidence and like
yeah,
knowing what you think is good
yeah,
is, I think that takes a long time to get to that point. But
yeah,
then, I think if you ask for feedback, like
yeah,
if you're a newcomer and you ask for feedback, you the client's going to tell you. So what I like to do is I like
yeah.
to, for a video project, I like to be like 90% through the edit. Like, hey,
Mm,
this is what I think is
yeah,
really good, because when you give somebody, even though it might take more time to be presented, the chances of the client trusting you to complete the project
yeah.
are going to be right there. But if you just turn in a 40% rough draft, then the
Mm,
client's going to give you a bunch of feedback and the project will never get done.
yeah. Yeah, and that is another thing that I have been learning to take more care of, the different type of clients. Yeah, because there are clients that are not so familiarized about filmmaking and videography, but other ones do.
Mhm. Yeah.
So for me, something that I have been valuing more is working with those clients that already understand our fields.
Mhm.
Yeah, because sometimes I think you also have experienced it. You used to work with people that think they understand how to make a video and
Mhm.
talking about the whole creative process. But for example, I also have a funny. Right now, it is a funny experience, but in 2017, when I resigned my job, I used to edit an internal video for a perfume brand.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time the edit was not working, so I had to reunite with the client. They explained me very well the instructions for the second edit. Yeah, and I remember when I already was working on the edit, I really sweat blood to edit it because yeah, I could understand the instructions, but the way I had to solve the edit, that made the editing process more stressful. Or sometimes there are clients that used to ask for things that
Oh yeah.
are very
You know what's important
yeah,
as in an edit?
yeah,
If somebody says, I want
yeah,
more energy,
yeah,
and then you say, well, can you define energy? Like taking that moment, because
yeah,
sometimes, like whenever I've had a disagreement with a
yeah,
client, and it's because my interpretation of what they're saying is not what they're meaning. And so it's also really important to say, can you define what it is that you're looking for?
Yeah, and that is one of the funniest thing right now, that AI is being. Yeah, the good thing about there is a joke about it. The good thing about AI, how is AI going to understand when a creative director says, "I want more design. Define me with what is more design."
Yeah.
So, yeah, for example, yeah, we're talking about how to deal with client expectations. The other day, also was thinking why these great directors became earned their reputation. I think there is for example, George Lucas, James Cameron. I think they're more the type of persons that used to fight a lot with their superiors about certain creative decisions, and I think at the end of the day, that is the reason why they became so well respected in the film industry, because I think they also used to face these kind of situations where they asked for certain things that were crazy, or
that hadn't existed before.
Or sometimes they had to fight with the studios about certain creative decisions. Yeah, for example, the other day I was investigating about Titanic in 2023. It became one of my most favorite movies.
Really?
Yeah, after re-watch it again after a very long time. For example, the scene where Jack teaches Rose how to spit. That is a great antecedent moment to another scene where Rose broke up with Cal, her fiance. And I don't know if you remember the movie when Rose spit Cal's face.
No.
Before,
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, when the Titanic hit the iceberg, and everybody have to evacuate the ship. Yeah, because in screenwriting, sometimes you have to introduce if you want to make something amazing or impressive, sometimes you have to create certain moments to anticipate that amazing moment, so it doesn't seem so out of.
So that is actually a really good point. Like I'd have to rewatch that movie to see the power of that. It's like how a comedian will tell a joke, and then they'll call back towards the end. It makes it so much better. I had a project that we had filmed this student like inside the classroom, and at the time you don't really think anything of it. You think a student is a student, so whatever. Well, like 4 or 5 months later, we did a project, and the student that we filmed was the main subject of the follow-up video. And it was so cool to have the footage of the student that was like front of the class taking notes, and like you find out that he's now super successful. That was actually like a really cool moment that I would like to recreate more, but you need to film a lot to be able to have that moment in corporate video. I mean, that is really. So you rewatched Titanic, and maybe what kind of film inspires you besides Star Wars?
In 2020, I watched once again Blade Runner 2049, and
with
that,
Ryan Gosling, right?
yeah,
I've only seen that once, but I do think about like the aesthetic of it.
yeah. Robert Dickens was the
Yep.
director of photography of that movie, and I remember that one inspired me to improve as a camera operator and to work on my own creative style as a, as a cinematographer.
Hmm.
Well, that was the movie that inspired me to take more care about the camera operating work, because before that I just used to do my job and I didn't used to take more care about the image composition, because as I said, I used to work as a video editor, so I really have that philosophy about everything can be solved in the editing process,
Yeah.
because I already understand how an editing software works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the I think about when you say that there's a documentary about Phantom Thread. It's
Yeah.
with Paul Thomas Anderson,
Hmm.
and it. Have you seen this movie?
Oh, not yet. I
So,
have to.
so what it's about is like a 1940s like clothes maker falls in love with this girl that lives in just the middle, like in a nowhere village.
Hmm.
So it's just their story of how they met and then how they ended up being together. And um, w- Paul Thomas Anderson creates these worlds
Hmm.
really well,
Yeah.
and you kind of just like I fall in love with Fallout. Like I just love being part of something that kind of takes you away, and it allows your creativity to kind of be like, wow, that that might not exist like in a book where this person does exist, but it makes you wonder like if they did exist, like does the time match up and does the feeling match up? Well, anyway, so I'm watching this documentary of how this film was made, and it was important for the lenses that they used
Hmm.
were from the glass of that time period, and it was like it's like things like that that make me really think about the process more is like how you can create a characteristic from just thinking about it more in depth. Like the film could have been made with a 24 to 70, right?
Hmm.
But it goes to show like with the thought process and why certain things are done, because it's not because it makes the life easier, but it brings more of that world alive.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think you were talking about Blade Runner
Yeah.
and how it made it made the cinematography in that film made you think about your own cinematography. I think of how in certain decisions in film it influences my way in which I do things.
Hmm.
Um, so um, yeah, I could talk about video all day long. I love I think about this a lot too. Like how have you ever filmed a music video?
Music video, no, but I have worked as a second camera operator in just a very few music videos. One of them before graduating from
Hmm.
the film school. Uh, Maybe a couple of them when I moved here in Austin, 2023 and 2025. But uh, one of the reasons why I haven't worked so much in music videos is uh, yeah, because during this conversation we have been talking about what is the line between the client expectations and my vision,
Hmm.
and something that I started to learn before graduating is I used to to shoot live concerts with my first camcorder,
Mm.
and then I started to work together with one or two local artists in Chile. And then I started to realize that some of these people were tended to be egocentric in a way that they already have a very, very, very clear vision about what they
Because
want.
they're creatives too. Yeah.
So, uh, as I said, sometimes they are the type of people that you have to adapt to their work philosophy.
Mhm.
And yeah, that is one of the reasons why I prefer not making music videos. If you think clients, I mean agencies, event producers, or creative directors used to take certain controversial decisions during the filmmaking process. Uh, I think some, I don't want to say everyone, but there are certain musicians that already have their vision about how to do the whole job. So sometimes, yeah, that may be very stressful to try to adapt to their vision, to their requirements. So as I said, yes, of course, I have worked in certain music videos, but more as a second camera operator. But I know there are, yeah, I think there are certain musicians that they they put all their faith on me. They already saw my work. They they are more open mind. But yeah, that is very, that is one of the greatest reasons why I prefer not working in
Mm.
music videos, or to start specializing in that area, in that niche.
Well, the reason why I don't
Mm,
do music videos
yeah.
is because there's just not as much money as in
Mm,
there as there
yeah.
is in corporate stuff. And
Mm,
but what I was thinking about is music is something like in a
mm,
moment, like
yeah.
you can feel something like in a large group environment or
Yeah.
even by yourself faster than if you watched a movie with a large group or environment, because like it there's something about like that creative field where,
Mm,
because songs are like 3 minutes long, right? A
mm,
movie is an hour and a half, two
yeah.
hours. So to experience um the the creative of music, it triggers something, like it brings people together faster than
Mm,
it would be with media
mm,
movies. And I don't know, I just kind of you think about that because with movies there's a lot more money that's in it because the
mm,
equipment is more expensive, but then the with music there might not be as much money in there, but it
yeah.
transcends farther, and its replayability is higher, and the ability to connect with an audience that might not speak the same language just because of the tones. And um yeah I don't know, I just think about how music and movies, like they're a form of media that is consumed, there's totally different, um and they just trigger something in
Mm,
people, where we have this sort of emotion or feeling towards it.
mm,
um I don't know, I guess I was just. So what inspires you? Like, cause I see like
yeah.
things like this whole music thing that got me, like it inspired me because it was something.
Mm,
What it was Tom Morello was playing "Killing in the Name of" to a crowd of Minnesotians. I don't
mm,
know if you've heard of Rage Against the Machine, but
yeah.
there's somebody like I grew up listening to, and I must have been 11, 12, and I'm 33 now, and like it's amazing like how I could just hear something and I could feel emotion towards what Tom Morello was doing on stage, and it inspires me to think like how our work we do is impactful, even
Mhm.
though we don't see it at that moment. Um, so it makes me want to be a better artist. Could you tell me about like what inspires you as a creative?
Um, yeah, when I decided to create J.I. Mardones films,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't want to call it a production company because I feel at this point it has become more like a safe place or life project. Yeah, because this is the fifth year of J.I. Mardones film. I started it in 2021 during the pandemic. Uh, since I graduated from film school, I had the idea about creating something mine because I have been practically my whole career working for clients. And as we have been talking about, corporate videos, brand activations, there are certain rules you have to follow. Same thing in weddings, and sometimes that is the reason why all the wedding films, all the brand activations, and all the corporate videos at the end of the day are practically the same, which is not necessarily something bad, but something that I also learned in the film school is you have to find your own voice as a filmmaker. That I learned that when I was taking some screenwriting classes in the last year of my career. And so that is why I was a long time with the idea of creating something mine with my own style, my own rules. So during the pandemic, one day I was investigating about seven artisans lenses, and
Do you like those lenses?
yeah, yeah, I really have liked these lenses for low budget lenses. They are very good, I think. But I remember I was visiting the website and I found an Ukrainian videographer. And he was my inspiration to start my YouTube channel because I was at a moment where I was not so clear what to talk about, what type of projects to create with the resources that I had. You also have to consider that during the pandemic in our countries we faced lockdowns, maybe more and less restrictions depending on the country. But for example, when I saw these guys videos, that was very inspiring for me because he just used to make videos about anything, events, cars, motorcycles, or maybe one or two videos with models or friends.
Yeah, and that's something I see in your work is
Yeah,
you're very versatile.
yeah. So uh, when I decided to start J.I. Mardones Films, I was at a moment of my life where I perfectly could have started making a Star Wars team project or heavy metal stuffs. Yeah, I like heavy metal music, but at that point I just decided to start making things. So that is why if you check my YouTube channel, the first videos were made at home or going outside, just trying to film anything or just to test a certain type of lens I was using at that moment. I didn't care much about the story or the characters. Yeah, also you have to consider that we were in the middle of the pandemic, so obviously I was not going to hire actors or something to avoid putting them on risk
Yeah.
in 2021. And a year later, in 2022, I moved to from Santiago de Chile to Austin, and I was at that point of my life where I was adapting to a new country,
Mm-hmm.
trying to connect with local creatives, and try to find a way to start building a portfolio with projects made here in Austin. Yeah, because that is the other thing when you move from another country. I don't know if other people have faced the same situation, but I started to feel like everything that I made in Chile was not enough. So I had to start making projects made in this city. And I started to figure out what types of stories to tell right now from 2022. And one day I was looking for networking events and I found out these photo meetups, and I started to attend a lot these events, not to take photos of the models, but to make video recaps, combining a cinematic style with behind the scenes. And this is how I started to build a portfolio here in Austin in 2022.
Mm.
And besides, it also was a learning experience because when I graduated, I didn't have so much experience with directing actors, so I could learn it much better with directing models. And that also was funny because I also started to learn about how to give instructions about how to pose in front of the camera, and I also learned George Lucas when he directed Star Wars. Yeah, because a lot of people that have worked with him used to say that he's not so good directing actors because he used to take more care about the visual aspect. So his instructions are more like more intense, less intense. And I used to, and that is my key instruction when I used to direct models. I'm shooting videos so you can move in front of the camera. And that is how I started to realize which models are very good in front of the camera and give me options. So I just had to take care of the camera, the focus, the exposure instead of giving instructions. But right now, I'm at a point of my career where I want to make my next move by making my first short film as a director. So right now, I also know that I have to learn to work more with the actors instead of taking too much care about the camera, because that is the other thing. Sometimes when I used to shoot videos with models, I used to miss certain details about the clothes or accessories, earrings, necklaces, or hair, but I didn't notice them because I was more worried about the image composition, the focus. Well, because it is part of my job, but at least I can solve them in the editing process. But I think making fashion videos, that was one of the things that inspired me to keep myself consistent here in Austin. And that is other type of video that I want to say. I decided to start to get away, not because I got bored about it, but because I feel like I have been almost 4 years doing a lot of fashion videos and I want to try different things. And I haven't talked too much about it because I like making fashion projects, but at the same time, as I said, I want to make a short film. but at least I already know. Obviously, if I continue making short films, I already know which models are good acting in video. Yeah, that is something that I also like about working with models. Some of them are also good performing in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It what I've learned talking with you is
yeah,
like your experience is so wide. Like you
yeah,
like you started out as a sound guy,
mm,
then an editor, and then video, and then it sounds like you're wanting to make the deep dive into making your own short film.
yeah.
Um, how do you think? Um, how do you feel about your progress as a creator? Do you feel like you have there's more to learn, or are you happy with the growth in which you're developing as an artist?
Uh, First, I feel thankful of what I have learned during these 10 years of continuous career. Yeah, because I feel at this point I already have all the resources. I'm not talking about money or equipment, but I'm talking about uh, in the sense of resources about knowledge, experience, the connections that I have made. So that is one of the reasons why I'm feeling more secure than the first years of my career, where when I didn't have all the knowledge and all the resources or the connections. So from that point of view, I feel more secure right now. But on the other hand, I'm clear about I still have to learn a lot of things because I have been 10 years working mostly in the video industry instead of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So yeah, and in the beginning we were talking about the difference between film and video. In my case, I do not used to work all the time in a very specialized environment. For example, yes, I can do camera operating in an event and maybe set one or two lights, but this is not the same like working as a DP in a film
Yeah,
project because in some people tend to think that director of photography is just operating a cine camera, but it is more than that. You also have
think your focal
to
length
think about the lighting,
and how it makes you
the
feel.
the camera department. Uh, Sometimes, as a DP, you require another person to do camera operating to do certain specific takes. For example, a car chase, you need a very. Sometimes you're not
Like
experienced
an
with it,
action
so
person.
you have to hire another people that is specialized in this kind of scenes, or for example, to operate a drone or a helicopter with a camera, you have to take more care about a lot of things. And well, so that is why I am very careful when I introduce myself. I do not used to introduce myself as a DP. More, I prefer to be honest and say I'm more a camera operator, but not a DP because I'm not that specialized.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm very similar. Like
yeah,
I think so the work that I do, I
mm,
feel like I it's like, well, there's
yeah,
parts of me that do director of photography,
mm,
but then um the idea of like how light moves
yeah,
across a screen like that, like I'm not classically trained. Like I'm not
yeah,
like some I so and I think when you consider yourself a DP, like you understand
mm,
more about lighting and mood
yeah,
and your focal length and how it affects like the audience's
yeah,
perception. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's something like I don't think I would ever go that far. I could I could apply for director of photography jobs, but on the day to day, I wouldn't call myself that. That's why I'll just tell people I'm just a producer because I just make a lot of stuff and I'm really good at making stuff. So, producer's pretty big title for me to kind of like say my skill sets. So, and then I feel like camera operator is very, based off me talking to you, you understand sound and editing. So like that to me is like, those are, when you say you're a camera operator, it really kind of takes away from the fact that you know another really complicated part. So I don't know. I think maybe you should think about your title a little bit more because camera operator might be a little too vague based off your skill set. But camera operator is what you do more often than not.
Yeah, or sometimes I prefer to not introduce myself just as a camera operator. I used to introduce myself more as filmmaker. It is more generic, but yeah, because I have been feeling that my work is so much more than just operating a camera, shooting nice images. I practically do the whole process. I also edit. Sometimes something that I learned once shooting a wedding. I learned this type of job. You cannot, unless you're working for a production company as a subcontractor, and you have to send the footage so other guy is going to edit. But when you are working by your own, you're dealing with the client. Something that I learned, you have to do the whole process. Yeah, because I remember in 2024, I was shooting a courthouse wedding. Yeah, at the beginning, I'm not that experienced with weddings, but I decided to take the job because I was in need of the money. Yeah, I charged good money, but I remember at the end of the ceremony, I started to feel like I cannot send the project in these conditions. I mean, just the raw footage with all the mistakes that I made during the shooting. So I decided
Put it together, put an edit together.
to make some edits for the client. But this is how I learned when you are doing weddings, it is, unless you're working as a subcontractor for another wedding videography company, or there is another person that is going to be in charge of the editing. But when you're working by your own, you're dealing all the time with the client. You have to do the whole job. And something that I have been noticing in Austin, there is a lot of these works where the client just needs you to do the camera operating work, but not the editing. Yeah, from in certain contexts.
Yeah, like an agency might ask you to
Yeah,
do that, just like turn over the footage.
yeah,
I actually, can I talk about this real quick? So
yeah,
I had a job last week and
yeah.
they had gotten bids from all different companies here in town.
Mm,
And one of the reasons why they chose my company is because I said, well, I know you want the raw footage, but with my service, I'm going to color the raw footage
yeah,
and then deliver that. So all the cameras match.
yeah.
And that specific phrase is what really made them go with my company. So what I'm saying is, yes, there's these times like how you did that courthouse wedding where you're just required to film.
Mm,
And I think a lot of times people don't understand the basics of what they're asking. So when a corporate company says, "Hey, we just want you to film," they're not understanding that they might have gray footage delivered to them. So in order for me to win them over so that they're a repeat client is like, well, here's a step. Because like if I went base face value of what clients ask of me, that wouldn't really reflect in a portfolio that's gotten better over time. Because a lot of clients just think they want something and then they'll hire somebody in the Philippines to edit it together for them. And then if they do that, which is fine, they might not have as good of a experience ordering video. So to smooth that over, I kind of anticipate, well, I know you're asking for the footage, but how about I color it for you so that way it's your editor, whoever it is, has an easier time doing that. And it's just important to kind of like think about that, because a lot of our clients, like they don't know what they're asking of us.
Yeah. Or sometimes this may be a double sword,
Double-edged sword.
double-edged sword. Yeah, because you also have to, it is not the same.
And it takes more work.
Yeah, because I have had both experiences working with video production companies or advertising agencies that ask for the raw footage, but at least in these cases, there is a professional editor that is going to edit the job. So obviously, an editor is going to solve any problem.
A good editor should be able to figure that out. I had this happen last year where somebody was like, "I'm an editor, I know how to put it together." But then they would constantly email me about like, "Hey, how do I do this?" And it's like, well, why are you telling the client that you're an editor if you cannot do this basic task?
I have never had that issue because I assume that a good editor knows how to solve a project, even if
yes, that's what an editor is, a problem solver. So don't come to me like. And I've had that where a client has said, you know what, we don't need you to edit it because we have our own editor. And then the editor 6 months later will say, well, what's up with this audio? It's like, well, you know what's up with this audio. You just have to do the work. Like I'm not going to like, and not to say the audio. Have you ever had audio where there's like a little bit of an echo, because they're not like fully aligned? You just got to move it over a hair. And so if you're an editor and you're asking me how to do that, well, you need to figure that one out. Like this is what you do to fix that situation. And I don't know. It really bothers me because the client is trusting them to deliver the best work, but obviously that person doesn't know.
Yeah, or sometimes the client, the business owner, asks for just shooting raw footage, and sometimes you tend to be too confident about it, and sometimes you do not anticipate that maybe that person is not a professional editor or just know the basics.
Yeah.
So
like some computers, like you have to have editing software to open up footage, right? If you don't have editing software, then you don't have like the encoding to be able to play back. So like I'll have clients that call me and say, hey, the footage doesn't work. It's like, well, the footage works because I'm able to watch it back. But you need to have the software, and the software might cost them money. So it's like, when clients say like, we just want the footage delivered, unless you do this on the day-to-day, you really don't.
Yeah, so that is one of the reasons that I said I'm currently rethinking my whole strategy about how to deal with the clients or how to advertise my services. Yeah, because
have you ever explored retainer? Like, have you ever gone up to businesses and say, look, I will film for you, X amount of times during the month, and this is what you can get for deliverables. You're still a freelancer, but you're able to hold on to.
I'm going to try that strategy. Yeah, because as I said, at some point I I want to start getting more consistent work with certain type of clients.
Hmm. What kind of
Uh,
clients do you want to work with?
yeah, one of the yeah, I do not want to venture to name a specific type of clients
Got
because,
it.
but I want to, yeah, for example, yeah, because during the past year, I also started to think a lot about. Sometimes I have been feeling that I have been doing certain types of projects that are not totally aligned with my aesthetical taste or personal beliefs or
That's how I am with weddings. Like
yeah,
I can do a wedding,
yeah,
but I'm not passionate about filming
yeah,
weddings. So
yeah,
there's a sense of like drag
yeah.
when editing it.
Yeah, because that is why in the beginning, I think I also mentioned one of the things that I do not like about brand activations, the quick edit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
That's why I like
since
narrative stuff because you
yeah,
have to tell a story,
yeah,
and I really enjoy that, like letting the shot live
yeah,
for a little bit.
yeah, I feel I'm more the type of person that yeah, I like. I do not like. I, how can I say it? Yeah, I understand. Sometimes you have to edit not too fast, but not too slow, but to try to find a balance to do not make your audience get bored when you watch your uh, your videos.
Hmm.
And sometimes I have been feeling like I do not like so much adding effects or rapid transitions because
I'm not a big effects guy
I
either.
yeah, I have been enjoying doing cinematic styled video projects, and that is one of a few days ago I realized maybe I could try offering my services in the corporate field, but I also can add my personal touch, the cinematic style
Hmm.
or something. Yeah, because something that I have been thinking about corporate videos, sometimes it is the same atmospheric music played with a keyboard.
Yeah.
I think I already am finding the way, yeah, because I have been feeling like, yeah, I know we live in a world where sometimes we, not every time we're not going to make something that we really like or enjoy working in. But at the same time, it is very important to enjoy the process to work on something that is aligned with your expectations as a professional, with your aesthetical taste or beliefs. For example, if you ask me to shoot and edit a reggaeton music video, I'm going to, I would make it cinematic, but not with the typical crazy camera angles or
Yeah.
rapid edit. I would try to do it with, yeah, and that is also why I previously mentioned George Lucas and James Cameron because I also have been learning that it is part of our job sometimes to challenge your clients by proposing a different way to make things. Yeah, that is why I also mentioned the example about that scene of Titanic, the speeding scene
Yeah.
that was about to be removed from the movie. And finally, it stayed because sometimes,
Had
uh,
a bigger payoff at the end.
yeah, because it is, yeah, I understand that work is work, but also we already have been working in it from a long time. We already know how to make things work. So I have been trying to find that balance between the client expectations, but also my vision, my understanding about how thing works or how to solve a project with in a creative way or without putting my cast and crew members in risk. Yeah, because that is another thing we may talk longer. For example, sometimes I have, not all the time, but very very sometimes I have worked in projects that they do not take much care about safety on set. That is one of the values that I learned in my second job in an engineering company. They have very strict protocols about uh, safety protocols, especially when you work for the great mining. So, for example, sometimes, yeah, there might be some clients may ask you to fly a drone through an interior space, but you may cause an accident or cut someone
Yeah.
with the drone. So that is uh, uh, so it is also part of my job to propose a creative solution,
Yeah.
something that I want to start doing. I want to buy a new action camera, because something that I learned about these devices, you can use them to fake a drone by using a very long selfie
Yeah. Yeah.
stick.
Yeah. I've seen those.
Yeah, especially when you have to work in areas where it is not authorized to fly a drone or
Mhm.
these kind of devices. So,
What
uh,
action camera do you like?
an Insta 360, maybe the X4 or X5.
I have the X4, and I
Wow,
think the
nice.
image
Yeah.
quality is really good.
Wow.
Yeah, so like I know everybody wants to go for the newest thing, but I think
Mm,
I have the
yeah.
DJI Action 4. You know
Yeah.
that, and I think that's a great action
Yeah.
camera, even though they have the Action 6. You know, you just have to look at what do you need,
Mm,
and what the thing that I needed from these action cameras is time code,
yeah.
and so it has that, has great color. So yeah, I mean, I I uh I like the action cameras because they do have. We did this concert where they wanted to have like a uptown
Mm,
up view looking down at the crowd, and I just think to myself, if like I were to put like a Sony camera up there and it like something were to fall, not to say like if the action camera if it fell it wouldn't hurt,
mm,
but like if you have something above an audience, like that is a risk no
mm,
matter. And so you
yeah.
like I really like how action cameras are really just like these little small bodies that you can plant
Mm,
in areas.
yeah.
It makes it for unique angles.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I also learned in 2024 and 2025, the actual meaning of professionalism, because uh, most of the people tend to think that professionalism means having uh, professional cameras and a whole lighting setup or microphones, etc., etc. But I realized that professionalism uh, means to arrive to the set right on time, but also to take care of the safety measures, or you do not put your cast and crew members in risk. Yeah, because we also could talk longer about for example, I started to see it when shooting fashion films. When I used to see when I used to watch other photographers trying to get very awesome images, but putting the models or sometimes the models themselves climbing to dangerous surfaces or these kind of stuffs. And sometimes I think I'm not going to shoot that image because it is part of one of the values that I also defend
Yeah.
is safety on set. I always am going to be on the surface. I'm not going to climb to that height to try to get the image. I'm going to get maybe a selfie stick or something, but I'm not going to put my life in risk. And especially in this country, sometimes it is ironic that people in this country used to behave like we had the best, the most accessible health system in the world. So, in this country, an accident may cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hospitalization.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think that's
Mm,
amazing that you put
yeah,
you define professionalism like that because
yeah,
I think of professionalism the very same way. It's like about showing up on time
yeah,
and kind of just putting your ego to the side and
mm,
trying to fulfill what the client's
yeah,
requirement of us is, and that's what I look for. And that's who I like working with is like
yeah,
people that are just like that have the overall objective and they're going to show up on time.
yeah.
So, um,
And also, when working on set, sometimes you also can notice when shooting an interview or a testimonial, sometimes the subject used to mention something that is too funny to hear, but you have to keep yourself serious while operating the camera or doing sound recording because you cannot ruin that moment. Or sometimes you see people shooting video that is dancing with the
mhm.
music, but that is the other thing. I may not have the best camera in the world, but if you see me working, I always I
Yeah,
am
your
a
angles
different
are very good. Like
yeah,
you're always trying to think
I
of
am
like
a
how you can approach it in a creative
yeah.
fashion.
Yeah, you can see me right now and I can laugh, I can make jokes or do ridiculous things, but when operating the camera, I'm definitely another person and I'm not that kind of authoritarian filmmaker or director, but I understand I have to be concentrated on the camera. So that is why sometimes I look like I'm angry or too serious.
Yeah.
But it is so at the end of the day, it is part of the job. And
It-
obviously, yeah, but uh, something that I also started to learn in 2023 to try to I learned to be more relaxed on set because I remember I had a work experience with very professional people and I remember in the beginning I was very scared of making some mistake, but at the end of the day I also have learned sometimes the people that we used to think they're in a very very high professional level actually are more relaxed than the ones that are not. That is something very weird to explain, but uh, so that is how I also learned
I
to be
think
more
it's like the
relaxed.
phrase
Mm,
like act like you've been here before.
mm,
Like that's
mm,
whenever there's like a big
yeah,
job that we have, I'm always having to remind myself like, look, I mean, I've done the work.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
act like you've been here before. Don't go into gaga land. You have a task,
Yeah.
and that phrase usually helps me out to stay focused rather
Yeah.
than kind of get lost in it.
Or sometimes you connect with people in a way that you cannot explain, but you feel more relaxed because they trust you. So maybe that is why sometimes with certain people it is more comfortable to work with. So in 2024, I started to tell myself at this point I do not want to work just with very professional people, but especially with people that I feel comfortable with. Uh, yeah, they sometimes it is like life may be so weird. Sometimes you, but I don't know if there is a rational explanation or why sometimes we used to have a better relationship with certain kind of people because um something that I started to listen a lot before beginning the college. The best thing about working in films is you are constantly working in groups of people.
Yes,
But at the same,
yes.
but then I started to learn, but that sometimes you do not connect very well with some other people, or you do not understand uh, very well with other classmates. I'm not saying that is something bad, but at the end of the day, we also are humans. And that is also why I started to take more care about sometimes working in certain kind of projects or with certain kind of people, or that is why with some people I feel more connected with. Yeah, because I know there are people that also make an amazing job, but maybe we are not going to have a good relationship because we have different work philosophies, or sometimes there are people that maybe not so expert, but at least with that people we have a good relationship. We already know each other, so we already know how to deal to each other because we already have seen each other doing our jobs independently.
Yeah, I think you touched up on this is
Mm,
like how sometimes it's like
yeah.
the synergy
Mm,
that you feel working
yeah.
with people. And you know, I've worked with people that might not be as experienced as
Mm,
others, but
yeah.
they might feel passionate or they might feel
Yeah.
excited to be there, and I love that.
Mm,
It's when it's contagious.
mm,
When somebody is like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool," because maybe they experienced it for the first time, and I love just um always remembering where my passion comes from. Like I love this field.
mm,
It's easy when you have clients that kind of ask a lot from you, and maybe you're doing subject matter that isn't something you feel passionate about.
mm,
It's kind of it becomes like a 9 to 5 almost, like you're clocking in and you're doing it. But when you have those moments and you have that crew that really reminds you, like, this is, we are so lucky to
mm,
do this every day. Like,
yeah.
those are the people that I try to surround myself around because it's easy to forget. But when you have somebody that's just so excited about, I mean, like the lights, that's why I love filmmaking is because
Mm,
whenever, and I don't know if you've seen this, but when you
yeah.
turn on lights in front of the client, it's almost like, whoa, this is
Mm,
real. And um,
mm,
there's something about that magic that I just love every time seeing on a client's face when they're like, "Wow, this is a lot of equipment." And it's like, yeah, but how this is how things are made,
Yeah.
like, so, um, man, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's like it's about who you work with. That's really
Mhm.
important,
Yeah.
because filmmaking is there's not one person in the
Mhm.
credits.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, I am at the point of my career where I want to learn to work more in bigger crews, in more specialized environment. So yeah, for example, always I'm open to work in commercial or corporate video projects. But as I said, I also want to make that next move by making a short film project that I can submit to film festivals and make more connections in the film industry in general. I already have an idea I have been working on, and obviously,
Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want feel comfortable sharing?
uh, for now, I just want to say that I would like to make a science fiction team project. Yeah, I know it may sound like how are going to do that because sometimes people used to think that when you mention science fiction, they immediately think about high budgets, a lot of special effects that are almost impossible to be made with our own resources, but something that I also have learned in the process since 2024. I remember I made a few videos for my YouTube channel where I'm talking about I don't want to say sci-fi projects, but I worked on these aesthetics, maybe because of the type of location or the type of aesthetics I was working on these days. But this is how I started to learn that I perfectly can solve a science fiction project with less resources, just choosing the right camera angles, the right lens, or the right background music, and there are a lot of factors that you can use in your favor without having all the resources. Yeah, because I understand if uh, uh, at this moment I'm not able to shoot something too big in a studio or to make very awesome CGI or stuff like that. But I think I can find a way to solve the story with less resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I already have an idea about how is the main character to look like.
So, so you think you will be working on this short film within the next couple of years, and
Yeah,
I think um, you have a goal of like trying to break into more filmmaking and
yeah,
more specialized stuff, and I really like hearing that you're saying you want to work on a film that you can submit to festivals, and hopefully
yeah.
that opens up more doors. So, Juan, I think you're on the right track, and I love being
Thank
part
you.
of the process of
Yeah.
where you're at in your journey.
Mm.
So, what do you think? Do you think this is a good podcast episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, and I don't know if you already noticed it, but it also has been part of the process to learn to keep a long English conversation because, as you know, I came from another country,
Mhm.
from Chile. I used to speak Spanish all the time, but now I have to be talking in English the whole time.
Mhm.
I know my English is not good at all, pero el español lo hablo perfecto. Yeah, but it is part of moving from a different country. You have to learn the new official language. And as you can see, yeah, I perfectly could have been focusing more on the Latino community, which is not something bad, but also, yeah, there is something about it. Yeah, in the beginning, for some reason, I didn't connect it with so many Hispanic people. I don't know why. From a certain point of view, it was good, so I could practice my English more often. But at the same time, it also was a little painful
Yeah,
when
I
I
imagine
had
so.
my first disappointments in my daily life, and sometimes I didn't have someone to talk with.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially because it is different expressing emotions in your native language instead of a different one. But during the process, I learned how to express emotions or feelings in English. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. It is very good to yeah, I feel it felt very comfortable, spontaneous, and let's see how things go.
Well, I think you're
Yeah,
you're gonna be able to
yeah,
have a lot to share about
yeah,
your journey and like what you're passionate about. So having you on as a guest, it was great to
yeah,
formally meet you like this.
yeah.
Like this to me, because like whenever people are like, "How is it?" I'm like, "Well, it's like as if we were recording a conversation in
Mm,
a coffee shop, you know."
yeah,
And I feel like this is a conversation we would have had at a coffee
yeah,
shop. So, Juan, thank you so much for your time, and
yeah,
I hope to have you on in the future. Maybe it'll be in Spanish.
yeah.